You all set? Yeah. I'm good. Yes, we will do a prayer together.
Thank you, Jackie and Kat. I think we've got our act together. Chris is using a hotspot. Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is August 15th, 2021. I'm Janet Vrote, and I'll be your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, races, ages, and backgrounds. It's wonderful to see all our vaccinated members here in the sanctuary, although we're also on YouTube. For those of you who just see us on YouTube, make sure you go to tcuuc.org and sign up for our newsletter so you'll get our announcements. Reverend Bob is facilitating a Friday political discussion via Zoom. Let him know if you would like an invite. Tuesday, Stuart Memorial Park, downtown, high noon for our brown bag lunch. It's nice that we're all vaccinated. And I need to mention our book sales in Heston Hall. We had a flood of books. So I've got some smeared out on a table that take some. If there's one that you think really ought to be over in the book sale, put it over there. If not, I'm going to haul them off to Goodwill because we're overwhelmed with books. And we have a big thanks to those who helped us with the service. Jackie Robbins and Kat Villano for the music, and to our designated singers and our host Karina Poloni and our tech volunteer extraordinaire Chris McGann. And by the way, we will be getting new equipment soon. Chris will be consulting with Debbie to make the purchase. I think you figured out that our minister, Reverend Bob MacDonald, will be in the pulpit today. And now we'll light the chalice. For the gift of this day and for our community of spiritual nurture and compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in the communion of heart and soul. It is natural to be stressed out by today's news. Climate change, vaccine resistance, Haiti, Afghanistan. But it is okay to be tired of everything being different, and okay to feel weary, and okay to yearn simply for rest. It's okay to be grouchy and unsatisfied. Let this morning be a reminder that you are loved. Let our time together soothe what is restless in you. May you be comforted in knowing that whatever you feel today, you are not alone. You are never alone. Come worship together. Designated singers. Let's see. Yep. All the way in the back there. We're going to do hymn number 20, Be Thou My Vision. Our singers are going to sing, yes, into the microphone. Yeah, we're still doing, but we want people with the microphones. Okay, for those of you here in the sanctuary, please sing through your mask.
Through your mask. Okay.
Choir, please stay for the affirmation. Thought you were going to get away. Let us recite our affirmation. We're going to speak the first verse and sing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. you can be seated, choir.
Now it's time to share matters of joy or sorrow. We ask you to step up to the mic, tell us your name, and tell us your joy or your concern, and then to move a stone into our symbolic river of life. Try to keep it personal and brief. I'd like to start out with international. Haiti. My goodness, Haiti. How much suffering can one people endure? Sadly timed for my sermon topic this morning, but so really sad to see that coronation struck again. Personal. Suzanne, you're due for back surgery. You're going to tell us, or you want me to tell us? Well, Suzanne Ellis has been telling us that Tuesday is her day to have back repair. And we only hope it goes well, and we're talking among ourselves how we might help her after this is done. But we certainly hope for the best for your repair, Suzanne. Anyone else want to come to the mic or from where you're seated?
Mine's international and personal as well. I was in the Marine Corps for 22 years during Vietnam. I lost friends. I had friends that came back that had PTSD. My last job after the Marine Corps was as a social worker, and I worked with homeless people, many of them vets of the Vietnam era. And I have this horrible, horrible deja vu watching what's happening in Afghanistan and remembering what happened in Saigon as we left that city and so many people behind. And I fear that we're doing the same thing in Afghanistan, and I fear there's going to be a bloodbath. And of course, we're having all kinds of PTSD from that war anyway. So this is for all the veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all those Afghanis that helped us over the years that we're leaving behind.
Anyone else?
Yesterday, my father-in-law turned 97, and he was a World War II vet, and he's a really, really good man who was fortunate to have the kind of constitution that didn't lead to PTSD in horrible situations. He's got a bit of dementia, but yesterday our neighborhood got together, about 100 people got together, and hopefully it wasn't a spreader event, but it was so, and the Marines came in. He was a Marine and did an honor guard, and it was and then we had a personal party afterwards, and it was just a wonderful day and a celebration. And he cried and he smiled, and it was just great being there with him.
Great, John. Anyone else? Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Bajaris, and I'm spreading joyful news regarding John's family, which is also my family. His son Ray and wife and 10-year-old daughter, their 10-year-old daughter, moved here recently, and we're very happy to have them around. It's a joy. It's been an odyssey because nightmare of a move, of moving company and getting Kaylee in school and everything, but it's coming together, and just lovely to have him here in Jensen Beach. And then John's daughter, younger daughter Becca, is getting married in September, so we'll be headed up to Maryland. I'm not sure if we'll make it to service next week or not because of that. Depends on how well the packing goes, but lots of joy in the family.
Great. Anyone else? Pam, Tim, are you coming up? Good.
Tim. I'm Joe Burke's son and Pat Burke's son, and just a sorrow. We're going through some period of mourning as my son passed last year, and my wife is trying to go back to work. So Tuesday will be our first day back teaching. She teaches college students about my son's age, and she's not been able to work since. So we're also trying to find a spiritual home, and or a community. And so that's a struggle for us as well.
Thank you, Tim. Pam.
I have a joy that yesterday our wonderful parishioner Ann Nozawa and I went to Murakami. I would urge you to go to Murakami and walk around those gardens. There is a senior citizen discount. However, I would urge you all to reach out to somebody in church and say, would you like to accompany me to go someplace? And in that trip, Ann and I shared stuff, and I learned more about Ann Nozawa. And I'd like to urge you, learn more about people who are in church. And just do a one-on-one brown bag lunch and talk to one another. Do a one-on-one with somebody in church.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Lori Dodson. I know y'all don't know me because it's my first time here. But my joy is that today is my daughter's 21st birthday, and everyone that I'm related to is not in Florida. So, everyone. But she is coming with her sister, her younger sister, this week, and to celebrate her birthday here. And my sisters, who I'm the baby, so my older sisters never ever come visit me where I live. I always have to go home to see them. And I've always been the gypsy in the family. So, but they're coming also. So it's going to be a full house in my house, my new house, of my babies and my sisters, and a whole week's events are planned. Hurricane Beach. We don't say that word. So that's my joy. I'm very happy about it.
Great. Anyone else? For those that don't speak their concerns or their joys, we move a stone. We always have more on our minds and on our hearts than we say out loud. And now we invite you to think those thoughts in silence for a few moments. But before the silence, the script is here, but men and directions, right? This meditation from Henry David Thoreau, entitled "To Live Deliberately," in the back of the hymnal. Okay, I need to rephrase that next time. But this is Thoreau, not to be topped. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. or if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it. Thoreau. And now silence. And now our singers will guide us through Spirit of Life, 123. We hum a verse, then we sing a verse. As we gather, we certainly want to be the right kind of spreading event. And the passing of the offering plate is a recognition of generosity that has come our way. And generosity we hope will come from us. And now the ushers. Do I have ushers? Well, we are grateful for all we have been given, and this is our time to show it. We thank you. Most religions seem like the responses of humans to the issues of mortality, answers to why we die. The Hebrew and Christian scriptures start out with two creation stories. Two human beings are imaged or imagined: Adam, man, and Eve, woman, or Adam's rib. The story just posits or places them to get the story going in order to begin figuring out the meanings of things. And the main thing to be figured out is death, why we die. The first creation story doesn't answer that. It says the deity created man in the deity's image, and that man seems to mean human, because the first creation story goes on to say, male and female, he created them. Then all is declared good, and there is a day of rest. The second story of creation starts with, it is not good for the man to be alone. And that creation story proceeds to moral failings captured in gripping images of a talking serpent, forbidden fruit, fig leaves, and expulsion east of Eden. And death is explained as a punishment. Women are punished with labor pains. Men are punished with having to work, and all are punished with having to die. And you are reminded of all this whenever you look at the back of your iPhone or any Apple product. So death is explained. Death is explained primitively. What isn't explained is the suffering of human beings, particularly the suffering of innocent life. And all of us could fill a list with examples from any day's news. A child left in an overheated car, the children in the St. Jude's Hospital commercials, and all the lives, human and animal, being swept away by daily disasters of fire and flood. However much can be explained by human inhumanity and human ignorance, it is still unsettling to people who try to get through this mortal journey with a degree of idealism and faith and hope. I want to talk about 3 attempts to live with the reality of the suffering of people, particularly the suffering of innocence. The book of Job in Hebrew scripture is a fable that tries to put human suffering in a perspective people can live with. Job is called a righteous man, or a man of faith. Satan is a member of the deity's cabinet and poses the question, will a man of faith like, say, Job, will he keep his faith if all his supports in life are removed? The deity goes along with it and tells Satan he can take anything away from Job except his life. And the way it plays out, so-called friends come calling and challenge Job on whether he has been a man of faith, because if he was, How could such terrible things happen to him? That's the question. And Job keeps insisting. His faith has held up. The story comes to an end with Job calling upon the heavens to answer why. Why? He has kept his faith. He has lost everything. So why? Heaven's reply is not comforting. Job hears, "Who were you to question? Were you around when the universe was created? Did you have a hand in crafting the Grand Canyon?" I added that. No hand crafted the Grand Canyon. I guess time and geology did. The book of Job raises questions without answering them. Satan is not the devil. He just raised a devil of a question. He's kind of a Unitarian. He, she, it believes in questioning, even if the question can't be answered. It's in primitive times, riches were a blessing, poverty was a curse. So remove the blessing from a person who was a have, a man who had it all, and see if he will keep his faith and send friends in to hammer home the point. You said you were faithful. The God we believe in provides. You've lost all your provisions and life supports. Ergo or QED or something, you aren't a believer. A person whose life is utterly precarious and impoverished, like our abundance of traffic island needy people, you must have earned your poor estate. Job insists otherwise to the end. The fable ends with family and farm and riches being replaced. The answer given is pretty inadequate. Who are you to question the Creator? Archibald MacLeish wrote a play called J.B. based on the book of Job. The play's answer to the question of suffering is as comforting as the answer in the book of Job. The MacLeish play lands on no one is to blame, and it is what it is. Humans like to place blame, but suffering, even the suffering of innocence, just is. And so it's up to people who care to try to do something about it. The second response I couldn't put down when it came out was Rabbi Richard Rubinstein's After Auschwitz, published in 1966. Can anyone have faith after the death camps? The book joined the God is Dead literature of the 60s. You remember the attempt at humor? God is dead, signed Nietzsche. Nietzsche is dead, signed God. After Auschwitz tracks the straight line from the branding of the Jewish people as Christ killers or deicide. You know what is called the big lie today. The big lie then was about who killed Jesus. If the Jews killed the Galilean Jew Jesus, he would have been stoned. But he was executed in the Roman way of execution. But the Christians who wanted to gain a footing in the Roman Empire did not want to offend the Romans with the truth. So they presented Jesus as dying at the hands of Jews. Rabbi Rubinstein cites this awful history as leading directly to the Holocaust. Hitler was angry with the Christian God because that God was really the same as the Jewish God, and they had supplanted the gods native to Northern Europe, whose home was Valhalla. Citing Paul Tillich's pronouncement that we live in a time of broken religious symbols, broken meaning they don't have the power they once had and offer no protection. So Rubinstein finds a direction in Freud's critique of religion. Religion is about human connection and survival. Suffering seems to make human life meaningless, reminding me a bit of the famous Dylan Thomas poem, "Don't go gently, rage, rage against the dying of the light." The rabbi then, 1966, called the Jewish life and practice of faith an absolutely necessary attempt to render the meaningless meaningful. That's what humans are driven to do. And I want to read a few sentences from the end of his book. Religion is the way in which we share and celebrate, both consciously and unconsciously, through the inherited myths, rituals, and traditions of our communities, the dilemmas and the crises of life and death, good and evil. Religion is the way in which we share our predicament. It is never the way in which we overcome our condition. Then he tells about this conversation with a Catholic theologian after visiting Auschwitz. I would like to relate a conversation I had with a Thomistic theologian at the Catholic University of Lublin, Poland, in October 1965. I had just completed a lecture on American theology, which reflected many of the same perspectives as in this book. 3 days before, I had visited Auschwitz. The Polish theologian asked me, "Do you love God?" I replied, "I should. We are enjoined to love God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. But I cannot. I am aware of his holiness. I am struck with wonder and terror before his nothingness, but I cannot love him. I am affrighted before him. Perhaps in the end, all I have is silence." He, the Thomistic theologian, said, "You know, we Catholics believe that God himself gives us the grace with which we are able to love him." "You're really saying the same thing I am," I replied. "It is only because you believe God himself has enabled you to love him that you speak as you do. If you didn't believe you have that grace, you couldn't love him either. On your own, you could not love him any more than I do." The rabbi places his response in the intellectual ferment of the 60s, along with a number of people who wrote, "After the horrors of Holocaust, how is any faith, how is any God possible?" People of many faiths and people of no faith said passionately, "Never again, never again." But we know genocide has happened in a number of places and is yet. Never again needs teeth, international agreement, and action. The third response to the enormities of human suffering I want to talk about, because it really stunned me, is the scripture transmission scholar Bart D. Ehrman of UNC Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Ehrman's revelations about the realities of Christianity's ancient texts being copied by scribes and passed through generations and indeed centuries and millennia, his revelations about all that to me were mind-boggling, especially because so many spoke and wrote about Scripture as if it had arrived fully and finally formed from some Mount Olympus. Some of Ehrman's mind openers. The first, the earliest intact Greek New Testament is 400 CE, formerly 400 AD. 400 years after the reported stories of Jesus and the early Christian movement. Before 400, there were only individual books and fragments. Fragments often meaning quotations in the early theologians. and copying errors can be found in nearly all the writings. Why the errors? Because humans, albeit devoted humans, were doing the copying. Ehrman counted the errors, and the number was staggering. Ehrman claimed he could show scribes fell asleep while they were copying. And any of us who have stayed up late, like getting ready for an exam, can understand that. So when our Wednesday book club read this, God's problem, how the Bible fails to answer our most important question, why we suffer. This erstwhile evangelical fundamentalist who attended Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. If you know, Moody Bible Institute is one of the bastions of fundamentalism, named for one of the great fundamentalist evangelists. Anyway, he went there. Later, he married a devout Episcopalian woman, scholar. He tells us now he is an agnostic. Wow. Why? Not because of all the humanists he unearthed in the study of the ancient scripts, not for that, but because of all the suffering in the world that just goes on, and a little bit of his own words. The God that I once believed in was a God who was active in this world. He saved the Israelites from slavery. He sent Jesus for the salvation of the world. He answered prayer. He intervened on the behalf of his people when they were in desperate need. He was actively involved in my life. But I can't believe in that God anymore, because from what I now see around the world, he doesn't intervene. One answer to that objection is that he intervenes in the hearts of the suffering, bringing them solace and hope in the time of their darkest need. It's a nice thought, but I'm afraid that from where I sit, it simply isn't true. The vast majority of people dying of starvation or malaria or AIDS feel no solace or hope at all, only sheer physical agony, personal abandonment, and mental anguish. The pat answer to that is that it doesn't need to be that way if they have faith. I, on the other hand, simply don't think that's true. Look around. Rabbi Kushner, in When Bad Things Happen to Good People, said it best in all its disquieting and discomforting realism. Sometimes there is no reason, no explanation. That book was a tribute to his son, born with the rapid aging disease. So he mulled over all the unhelpful things religious people say in their desperate attempt to find a reason. That seems so human. If we suffer or feel someone else is suffering, what did I do comes so naturally. 2,000 years ago, a child born blind, and someone asked Jesus, "Who sinned? Whose fault is this?" It can't be the child's fault. "It isn't anybody's fault," said Jesus. Then something like, "It can be an occasion for compassion." So the unhelpful questions just bubble up. What did I do? Am I being punished? Even if you don't believe in a punishing deity or force in life, you can still feel like you are being punished. The only helpful questions seem to be, what can somebody do to help? What can we do to help? The closing hymn is number 205, Amazing Grace. If our singers will assume the position. 205, please sing through your masks the best we all can. In just a few moments after the postlude, we'll gather out front with a bottle of water and spend some time talking to each other. First, these words as the chalice is extinguished. We often feel we can do so little. Here, we remind each other we've got to do what we can, and we can't do nothing. We'd rather be remembered as people who really tried.
I'd like to let you know that the first piece that Kat and I played was a serenade by Haydn. The second piece I played was a bourrée by Johann Sebastian Bach. And I'm going to end with an allemande from the six solo cello suites by Bach again.